How far would you go to become rich? In history, there was a man who collected and boiled almost 5,000 liters of human urine in his search for gold. Yes, you heard that right. One of the greatest chemical discoveries in human history did not come from sterile laboratories, but from barrels of urine in a rotten basement. The year is 1669. The place is Hamburg, Germany. An obsessive alchemist named Henning Brand was conducting what was possibly the worst-smelling experiment in human history in the basement of his house. Brand's theory was very simple, and to us, frankly ridiculous. The human body is perfect. Gold is perfect. So there must be gold in the yellow liquid that comes out of the human body, urine. Driven by this bizarre idea, Brand collected tons of urine from soldiers and neighbors and hauled it down into his cellar. For days, for weeks, he boiled it. First, he turned it into a paste. Then he distilled that paste over a charcoal fire. In that oxygen-free, dark, foul-smelling basement, he waited to see a miracle glow. He waited to see gold. And finally, the glow appeared. But it was not gold. Inside a glass flask was a ghostly white substance that glowed on contact with air without bursting into flame, emitting a strange, cold fire. Brand didn't realize it, but that night he hadn't just boiled urine. That night, for the first time in human history, a human being had discovered an element that does not exist in nature in pure form. The substance glowing in the dark was phosphorus. For centuries, alchemists had searched for the philosopher's stone, immortality, or gold. But while searching, they accidentally changed the world. Today, we look at this comedy of errors, one that produced phosphorus from urine, gunpowder from an elixir of immortality, and porcelain from a prison cell. If you're ready, hold your nose. We're entering the strangest era of alchemy. Brand was not alone. While he was boiling urine on the other side of the world, in China, alchemists were also working at their furnaces. But their goal wasn't gold. It was something far greater, immortality. Chinese emperors were terrified of death. They gave Taoist priests a clear order: bring me an elixir that can stop death. With this command, the priests began mixing everything they could find in nature. They focused especially on 3 substances: honey, sulfur, and saltpeter. The white salt known as potassium nitrate. Their goal was to create a syrup that would balance the body's energy and keep a person young forever. Around the year 850 AD, one day an alchemist prepared this mixture and began heating it. He expected a healing vapor to rise. But what emerged wasn't vapor. The mixture exploded with a massive blast. Historical records describe it this way: smoke rose to the sky. The priests' hands and faces were burned, and even the temple where they worked was reduced to ashes. The greatest irony in history happened at that moment. These men were trying to give humanity eternal life. Instead, they had discovered the fastest and most brutal way to kill humans. The Chinese called this powder huo yao, meaning fire medicine. At first, they used it to make fireworks, and drive away evil spirits. But soon, the Mongols took this powder and loaded it into some of the world's first weapons. The alchemists' elixir of life became the death sentence of millions. Gunpowder. The discovery of this black powder didn't just change warfare. It transformed the entire social structure of human history. Throughout the Middle Ages, the world was ruled by armored knights and high-walled castles. For a peasant, defeating a knight was unthinkable. But gunpowder erased that equation. An untrained peasant, given a firearm, could kill the noblest knight, trained for war his entire life, with a single shot from over 100 meters away. Cannons were cast. Walls once thought impregnable collapsed like paper. While searching for immortality, alchemists unknowingly killed feudalism and ushered in the age of kingdoms and empires. The course of history was changed by that explosion in a laboratory. Alchemists didn't only try to transform solids, they also tried to transform liquids. According to their beliefs, every substance contained a hidden spirit. If they could separate that spirit from matter, they would reach pure energy. For this purpose, they developed the strange glass apparatus still used in laboratories today. Alembics, derived from the Arabic al-anbik. The Muslim alchemist Jabir ibn Hayyan is considered the father of distillation. Alchemists poured wine into these alembics and boiled it. They cooled the vapor and collected it drop by drop. The transparent liquid they obtained was flammable, volatile, and when consumed, it put people into a completely different state. European alchemists called it aqua vitae, meaning water of life. To them, it was a magical elixir that stopped aging and granted joy and courage. In reality, what they had discovered was pure alcohol, ethanol. This discovery changed not only drinking culture, but medicine as well. Alcohol was an excellent solvent for extracting the essence of plants. By soaking herbs in alcohol, alchemists produced the first true medicines, tinctures, and perfumes. When we smell that sharp scent in a hospital today, or when perfume evaporates moments after being applied, this is all thanks to alchemists who searched for the spirit of matter. That's also why strong alcoholic drinks are still called spirits in English, an inheritance from alchemy. Gunpowder and phosphorus changed the world. But being an alchemist in that era was still extremely dangerous, especially if you had lied to a king by saying, "I can make gold." In Germany, a young alchemist named Johann Böttger experienced exactly that. The king had him captured and imprisoned in a tower. The order was clear: either you make gold for me, or I take your head. Böttger worked in that cell for years, trying to turn lead into gold. Of course, he failed. While trembling with fear of death, fate smiled on him. While searching for the formula for gold, he accidentally solved the formula for something entirely different. He uncovered the secret of a mysterious material the Chinese had guarded for 1,000 years. Europeans paid fortunes for porcelain. Until then, porcelain couldn't be produced in Europe. It only came from China and was so valuable it was called white gold. By finding the right clay and firing it at extremely high temperatures, Butker produced Europe's first true porcelain. The king was delighted. He had expected yellow gold, but received white gold instead. Butker saved his head, and the king filled his treasury with the porcelain factory he founded. Alchemy did what it always did. What was sought was never found, but what was found made kings rich. To understand how insanely valuable porcelain was at the time, we need to talk about King Augustus the Strong, the same king who imprisoned Butker. Despite his nickname, Augustus was actually a porcelain addict. The obsession even had a name: Porzellankrankheit, porcelain disease. He spent fortunes filling his palace with porcelain. He went so far as to trade 600 fully equipped cavalry soldiers for 151 pieces of Chinese porcelain from the King of Prussia. Yes, you heard that right. The king traded 600 living human beings, his own soldiers, for decorated plates and vases. This was the madness in which the poor alchemist Butker was trapped, forced to reinvent porcelain just to survive. When we look at all these stories together, a strange picture emerges. Alchemists boiled urine, detonated gunpowder, distilled wine, and spent years in prison. They never found what they were looking for: gold or immortality. But they found everything they weren't looking for. Most of the materials that built the modern world, phosphorus, porcelain, alcohol, acids, and gunpowder, emerged from this comedy of errors. Alchemists were like blind people searching for treasure in a dark room. By stumbling around at random, they accidentally discovered extraordinary things. But there was a serious problem: chaos. Despite thousands of years of accumulated knowledge, there was no shared language. When one alchemist said dragon's blood, another understood red mercury. There were no measurements, no scales, no mathematics. Science cannot be done with a pinch of salt or a handful of sulfur. Alchemy was a messy child, finding amazing things without fully understanding them. That child needed to grow up. It needed a father figure to teach discipline, measurement, and logic. In our next and final video, that man will step onto the stage. He will enter the laboratory with a balance in his hand and drive out the mystical spirits of alchemy. By declaring, "Matter can neither be created nor destroyed," he would bring an end to alchemy and give birth to modern chemistry. Ironically, the man who saved science could not save his own head from the blade of the guillotine. See you in the grand finale of the Alchemy series, Antoine Lavoisier and the Chemical Revolution. Stay with science. Goodbye.